Hey, welcome to another episode of Dave's Imaginations. Today we're going to recap. We're going to go through the treasure that our party had found after they defeated the beholder, Captain Zertes Steel. And as promised, we're going to go through the treasure that we did get. Now, as we remember, after Zertes was slain, the bottom of this chamber, his treasure portal, his treasure chamber, had opened up to a grate, and most of the coins fell to the sea below. But there's many items of treasure still there, and that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to go through that treasure. So, stay with me. Let's jump to pick, and I'll be doing this kind of live, unscripted, if you would. And so let's first take a peek at our foundry. This was the chamber. I said the walls were heavily mirrored and the floor was covered with coins, and we had just defeated the beholder, Captain Zertes, and most of the gold coins had fallen through. But if you look, and you'll see that there's much more here other than coins. Yeah, the coins and the gems fell through. But if we look, and for my sake, I just started at 6:30 here. I started with this item right here. What is that item? And so I went through this, and I went around the whole chamber, going from item to item. From there, I went to this item, and then this item, and that item, and that item, and I went through, and I took pictures of each of those items, and I put them in a Word document. Boop! Right there it is. And so here we are in this Word document. And so that first structure I said was an old portal. The runes were heavily scratched out, but you think it spells out the word Skullport. Skullport, Skullport. From there, I moved on to the next item. The next item was a loot. That's this item right there, the loot. And I decided that was an iron lute of mockery. And so in this, I thought I'd just go through that. Iron lute of mockery. This iron cast lute gives the wielder additional prowess in melee combat, functioning as a great club for all such purposes. The attack is magical. Additionally, the lute also gives the wielder an additional +1 bonus to performance checks. Furthermore, the lute has magical properties which can be brought forth with 5 charges. Expending 1 charge allows the wielder to cast Vicious Mockery cantrip as a bonus action. I love the Vicious Mockery cantrip. Alright, and be prepared. The person that takes this, I would expect to actually hear some sort of vicious mockery, an insult, right? So this vicious mockery cantrip can be cast as a bonus action, dealing 2d4 instead of the usual 1d4. The wielder can also choose to cast the cantrip as a free action using the cantrip's usual statistics. Alternatively, expending 1 charge allows the wielder to add their charisma modifier to an attack roll and consequent damage rolls. Charges can also be converted to bardic inspiration, 2 charges per use, but the number of uses available, including the wielder's own, must never exceed that of the wielder's maximum. The lute regains 1d4 plus 1 expended charges after a short or long rest. After a short rest? Oh, that's pretty generous. If you expend the last charge, you roll a d20, and on a 1, the lute melts in the wielder's hand, dealing 66 damage of fire damage to the creature holding the lute, and is destroyed. So that was the second item I saw, was the iron lute of mockery. The third item was a crystal Dodecahedron, 20-sided dice. Now this crystal Dodecahedron was a magic item, but you shatter this Dodecahedron, and you shatter that crystal to change any roll to a natural 20. But so you can only use it once. The next thing in the room was a golden Cobra. Now this didn't have any magic properties, but you think it might be worth 500 gold pieces. Now this next item, I said, well, WTF? What the? All right, so it looks like to me like it's some sort of tribal gear. And so when I looked up, I decided it was the Chieftain's Headdress. Now flipping over, I found that in homebrew items. A Chieftain's Headdress, a wondrous item, very rare, requires attunement. A colorful feathered headdress only to be worn by those who have earned the right and honor through formal recognition by their people. I wonder who that might be. The headdress has 3 charges. While wearing the headdress and attuned to it, you can use a bonus action to call out the commands. One is charge, retreat. You expend 1 charge and choose 1 ally within 20 feet of you. If the target can see and hear you, the target can use a dash action as a reaction. Also, you can command an ally. So you can expend 2 charges and choose 1 ally within 20 feet of you. If the target can see and hear you, the target can make 1 weapon attack as a reaction and gains advantage on that attack roll. And then, finally, all in! You expend 3 charges, and all allies within 20 feet of you have advantage on their next attack roll. That seems pretty good. That's the Chieftain's Headdress. Jumping back. All right. Moving on. The next thing we found turned out to be a mimic, not actually a treasure chest. We played through that. So moving on to the next thing. Next one was a crown with crystals growing from it. Now, as I looked at that, and that's this image right here. As I looked at it, it looked a little flimsy to me, and I thought maybe this was like a fake piece of art, right? So the crystals are made of glass, the metal is painted gold and flimsy. It might be worth 100 gold pieces, but to the untrained eye, maybe you could sell it for a lot more. So if someone wanted to be shysty, they could probably get away with that. And then we found some skulls, and there's nothing special about the skulls. Moving on to the next batch. From the next thing I found was a bottle, and I decided within that bottle was 4 doses of a potion of water breathing. Let's see if I got that. Potion of water breathing. So with a potion of water breathing, you can breathe underwater for 1 hour after drinking this potion. It's cloudy green fluid, smells of the sea, and has a jellyfish-like bubble floating in it. Notes is breathe underwater, buff, and a utility consumable. All right, so that was the potion. And then we had some treasure chests. We had a treasure chest, one with 1,400 silver pieces and 350 gold pieces. We had another one of 700 gold pieces, and the second chest had 700 gold pieces and 35 platinum pieces. Next to that were 3 bags. Now, one of the bags had 350 electrum pieces and 400 gold pieces. Nice big bag of coin. The next 2 was full of marbles, and these were Alejandro's bag of marvelous marbles. And Alejandro's. So this ordinary bag is made from black leather. Inside are a collection of enchanted marbles. The red marbles will start screaming once they hit the floor. Orange marbles will start screaming after 30 seconds after they hit the floor. Yellow will start screaming after a minute after hitting the floor. The green marbles will start mumbling. will start mumbling when another marble starts to make a noise. Blue. The blue marbles will start screaming when another marble makes a noise after being dropped within 10 minutes. The brown marbles emit a smell of feces out to a range of 10 feet. And finally, glowing. The glowing marbles emit bright light out to a range of 20 feet and a dim light to an additional 20 feet. So that was Alejandro's bag of marvelous marbles. Now this one, I believe, was a homebrew item, but I've added it to my collection, so you ought to be able to add it to your inventory. The next was an anti-magic bag. Again, I believe. This I think is. I've added it to my collection, and so therefore you should be able to add it to your collection. So this anti-magic bag is a bag of anti-magic created with a small part of a main eye of a beholder, and anything put into the bag instantly loses its magical properties. Now, when you take the item out of the bag, the item regains its magical properties. And I'd also say this bag in and of itself cannot be detected by a detect magic spell. Okay, so that is the anti-magic bag. Moving on. A lamp. Ooh, that's what I'm excited to. This lamp contains Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion, and that can be accessed by rubbing the lamp and saying a command word. But I created a magical item, and so let's read it. So moving on to the Genies' magnificent mansion is in my collection of items, homebrew items. You should be able to add this to your inventory. This wondrous item, legendary, requires attunement. I think this might be the only legendary item I put in here. Now I created the item, so I said it was legendary. But this lamp, this Genies' lamp, magnificent mansion, rubbing the lamp and speaking the command word allows the user and anyone within 5 feet to be transported into an extra-dimensional space. Dwelling residing within the lamp, all within this lamp. The attuned user, the attuned owner, and any creature that person designates can enter the extra-dimensional dwelling. Creatures that enter the lamp appear in a magnificent foyer with numerous chambers beyond. The atmosphere is clean, fresh, and warm. The person attuned to the lamp, someone has to be attuned to it. The person attuned to the lamp can create any floor plan they want, but the space cannot exceed 50 cubes, and each cube is 10 foot on each side. The place is furnished and decorated as chosen by the person attuned to the lamp. It contains sufficient food to serve a 9-course banquet for up to 100 people. A staff of 100 near-transparent servants attends all who enter. The attuned person decides the visual appearance of these servants and their attire. They are completely obedient to the attuned person's orders. Each servant can perform any task a normal human servant could perform, but they can't attack. They can't attack or take any action that would directly harm another creature. Thus, the servant can fetch things, can clean, can mend, can fold clothes, light fires, serve food, pour wine, so on. And then the servants can go anywhere in the mansion, but they can't leave it. Furnishing and other objects created by this spell dissipate into smoke if they are removed from the mansion. Genies' magnificent mansion. That sounds like fun. I hope you like that one. All right, going back to the list. So a shield, +1 shield, and a +1 sword. And then we found an anchor, which I'm guessing is, I'm saying it's worth about 300 gold pieces. And then we find a sword in the skull. And I said, well, this skull, if you might recall, was quite large. This skull was quite large. And I said, you know what? That is likely a Giant Slayer longsword. So, and that is, I believe, a regular magic item. So, again, +1 bonus attack and damage rolls with this magic weapon. But when you hit a giant with it, it takes an extra 2d6 damage worth of the weapon's type and must exceed a DC 15 strength saving throw or fall prone. For the purpose of this weapon, giant refers to any creature with a giant type. That would include Ettins and trolls. Might have been nice in our dragon fight. So yeah, going down here, I said it was a longsword right here, D8, and did I say it was longsword? I certainly did, and 1d8 +1 slashing, and it is versatile. Versatile meaning you can swing it two-handed. Yeah. All right, so it's a longsword. All right, going back to the list. After the Giant Slayer longsword, we have our next batch. More skulls, which really didn't do much. But then we get to the Indiana Jones-like archaeology's fedora, and then a crystal skull of Algary. So those are 2 items I found or created. So going to our list, and first the archaeologist's fedora. You gain a +2 bonus attack and damage rolls made with whips. while wearing this magic fedora. In addition, you may add your charisma ability score modifier to any intelligence history or intelligence investigation skill checks you roll. You'll have to manually add that +2 bonus to attack and damage for the whips while wearing this item. Okay, so that is the fedora. The next was the Crystal Skull. The Crystal Skull of Augury. Now with this wondrous item, it's rare. One may use the Crystal Skull to cast Augury as a spell, but instead of costing a spell slot or the resources, the cost is a permanent reduction of 1 hit point from the person using the skull. You would ask a question of the skull. If the skull has an answer, then the skull will ask if the user accepts the cost. If the user accepts the cost, then the skull will provide a response. By asking a question of the skull, you receive an omen about the results of a specific course of action and that you plan to take. The Dungeon Master chooses from the following options below here. The skull glows green for good results, and the asker's hit points are permanently reduced by 1 hit point. If the skull glows red, that's for a bad result, and the asker's hit points are permanently reduced by 1 hit point. The skull glows yellow for both good and bad results. The asker's hit points are still permanently reduced by 1 hit point. Now, however, if the skull does not change colors, the results that aren't especially good or bad, the asker's hit points are not permanently reduced. It basically doesn't respond, and you're not charged. All right? The skull doesn't take into account any possible circumstances that might occur, change the outcome, such as like a casting of a spell or the loss of or gain of a companion. Finally, the skull can be used as often as desired, but the cost is charged for each question answered. Tick, 1 more hit point. 1 more hit point. Permanently lost. You can use it as often as you want, but you might die using it. Alright, so that's the Crystal Skull of Augury. We'll hope somebody likes that. Finally, moving on to the Carpet of Flying. Carpet of Flying. Alright, so this is a wonder item, very rare. You can speak the carpet's command word as an action to make the carpet hover and fly. If you move, it moves according to your spoken directions, provided that you are within 30 feet of it. Now, I'm going to say that is a 3 foot by 5 foot carpet, as when we look at this, it's not particularly big, at least not from what we can tell. All right, a carpet can carry up to twice the weight shown on the table, but it flies at half speed if it carries more than a normal capacity. All right, so that is the Carpet of Flying. Let's go on back. After Carpet of Flying, we had a Chalice of Heroes Feast. Chalice of Heroes Feast. This wondrous item artifact. Using this item, you may use an action to start casting the Heroes Feast spell with it. This chalice is 2.5 pounds of solid white gold encrusted with 3 large color-shifting gems. As you cast the spell, all 3 gems light up, filling the space with 30 feet of bright light. You bring forth a great feast, including magnificent food and drink. The feast takes 1 hour to consume and disappears at the end of that time, and the beneficial effects don't set in until this hour is over. Up to 12 creatures can partake of the feast. At the end of the feast, the chalice dims, and 1 gem falls blackened and inert. When all 3 gems are consumed, the chalice crystallizes and cracks into pieces, so you get 3 uses. Alright, that's the Chalice of Heroes Feast. And moving on. There was a breastplate, and I said that was the Dragon Guard. The Dragon Guard. You have a +1 bonus. This armor, this breastplate, this rare breastplate. You have a +1 bonus to your armor class while wearing this armor. This +1 breastplate has a gold dragon motif worked into its design. It's created for a human hero of Neverwinter named Turgon. was originally created for that, I guess, because here it is in this treasure. It grants its wearer advantage on saving throws against against breath weapons of creatures that have the dragon type. This armor consists of a fitted metal chest piece worn with supple leather. Although it leaves the legs and arms relatively unprotected, this armor provides good protection for the wearer's vital organs while leaving the wearer relatively unencumbered. That is Dragon Guard, and that one is a standard magic item, not homebrew. Moving on from Dragon Guard, we find some gems. We found a diamond worth 500 gold pieces. We found a sapphire worth 300 gold pieces, and amethyst worth 200 gold pieces. Sword, and then from there we found a crown of the forest. A crown of the forest. While wearing this crown, a character automatically fails any intelligence investigation check made to see through an illusion. An illusion that is touched still has its true nature revealed. However, a creature wearing the crown has such a strong sense that the illusion is real that they may not know which of their senses to believe. If this crown is closely examined by a creature who succeeds a DC 20 intelligence or wisdom check, or detect magic spell, cast usually a third level or higher spell slot, that the nature of the magic is discovered. Alright. And this is a standard magic item also. Alright, and then we have a typical +1 sword that was in the stone. And finally, a green slime pot. Finally, last thing on my list here, a green slime pot. And this wondrous item common. As an action, you may throw a clay pot full of green slime at the target, and it breaks open on impact. Make a range attack, 5 foot and then 20 foot at disadvantage, against a creature or object, treating the pot as an improvised weapon. On the hit, the target is covered with a patch of green slime. On miss, the patch of green slime covers a randomly determined 5 foot square section of wall or floor within 5 feet of the target. Now, this is a kobold invention, and it says you can't have any more than 3 kobold inventions with you at one time. And it says here, if you obtain a 4th kobold invention, the ultimate invention that you currently possess expires. Yeah, all right. But let's look at the green slime, though. This green slime, this acidic slime devours flesh, organic material, and metal on contact. Bright green, wet, and sticky, it clings to walls, floors, and ceiling in patches. A patch of green slime covers a 5 foot square, has blind sight out to a range of 30 feet, and drops from walls, ceilings when it detects movement below. Beyond that, it has no ability to move. A creature aware of the slime's presence can avoid being struck by it with a successful DC 10 saving throw. Otherwise, the slime can't be avoided as it drops. A creature that comes into contact with the green slime takes 5 acid damage. The creature takes a damage again at the start of each of its turns until the slime is scraped off or destroyed. Now, against wood or metal, the green slime does 11 acid damage each round, and any non-magical wood or metal weapon or tool used to scrape it off the slime is effectively destroyed. Sunlight, any effect that cures disease, and any effect that deals cold, fire, or radiant damage also destroys the patch of green slime. So that is a pot of green slime, or green slime pot. Alright, that was the last item on my list. And if we take another gander here, I think I got everything on here, and anything not listed was mundane or we didn't collect it. We gathered it all up and we took it went through the portal and back into Zertes' sunken palace before we left. So that was the magic items from Zertes' treasure room. I hope you find something in there you like. I think we're probably going to want to find a place to sell some of these items very soon. I think we're going to Waterdeep. I think that is a likely place to find someone that might be willing to buy some of these. Or maybe be able to trade with someone at one of the places coming soon, perhaps in Gunbarg, the port of Gunbarg, right? You could try. Who knows? We'll have to see. So, I hope you found something that you liked. Before you go, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, I appreciate it. Otherwise, we can talk about which items you might. Maybe if you don't mind, which item did you like? Tell you what, the player that wants one of those items, if the first person to claim it in the comments below says, I want this, you get it, unless you convince the other people that someone else calls you out of, but you get first dibs. If you want something specifically, if my adventurers want one of the things that we went through in this video specifically for themselves, if they go into the comments and they put it, first person to do that gets dibs, and then we can start to talk from there. So put your comment below, the like, subscribe, and otherwise we will see you on Thursday. Take care.